Hello, welcome to Deconstructing Comp, a podcast that takes issues in workers' compensation and breaks them down into bite-sized nuggets. I'm Yvonne Guibert.
And I'm Rafael Gonzalez.
And today, our guest is...
You got it. The one, the only superstar of all superstars in a workers' comp industry, Miss Kristen Chavez of WorkCompCentral. Hey, Kristen, how are you?
Hey, Kristen.
Hi, guys. How are you?
We are good. Thanks for joining us.
Of course. Nice to see you from the West Coast.
All right.
It's the new world, isn't it?
It is. And I feel like I'm, adjusting. So
tell us a little bit about, your position, your day-to-day. Give us a little history about how long you've been there. For those folks that maybe don't know you or don't know your history, your background, give us a little bit of that.
Okay. So my name is Kristen Chavez, and I'm the general manager of WorkCompCentral. And I have been with the company for 16 years now. It's kind of where I am. I live and breathe WorkCompCentral. If you know me, it's part of my identity. But what I do is I make sure that we continue to lead the industry with information, knowledge. Our news is one of our biggest resources that people I know everywhere, they say, oh, I know WorkCompCentral. So my goal is to make sure that we keep that quality, unbiased information being distributed every day across the nation, grow our educational content as well. We just expanded into Texas and Florida. We are now offering claims credits there as well. So just continuing to honor Dave's mission and vision with what he wanted to accomplish with WorkCompCentral.
I love that. And that's all I've ever known you. Me, you are WorkCompCentral. I mean, I cannot think of WorkCompCentral without Kristen's, picture in my brain. You have always been associated with us, so I love that. You mentioned David. Let's talk a little bit about David. What an amazing man, and certainly, the trajectory of his life and his work and how it's still with us very much today. Can you share a little bit of the time and what he means to you even today?
Yeah. So David DiPaolo, he was our founder and CEO of WorkCompCentral, and was that person that wanted to teach and do what he could for the industry, and people, just people in general. If you knew him, he was, he became a pilot, and he started doing the angel flights, which was he would take children or people that had medical issues that couldn't get to their appointments because of where they were located. So these pilots volunteer their time and take the kids to their appointments. They wait, and then they take them home. One of his last trips was with a 2-year-old that was blind and needed medical care for his eyes. And he took him and then took him home so that he could get the medical. And if you knew David, that's what he was about. He wanted to do the good for every person. He wanted to do good for the industry, which is Comp Laude, which is, I know, one of the big things we're going to be talking about and become a very big passion of mine, Yvonne's, and yours as well. So David, with this tool, he couldn't be an attorney. He wanted to, he tried, he did applicant and defense, but he really just wanted to be a neutral that he could share information. And so he started a website before there were even websites. So he was that person in 1999, 2000 that saw the potential of what we could accomplish.
Wow.
Don't you love that, Yvonne? I mean, I love that history, and I love the meaningfulness of it, and how he's still very much with us today. I mean, I get goosebumps thinking about it. I was lucky enough to have spent some time with him, and it's so meaningful, it's so impactful. And Christian, I mean, I'm so grateful that you have carried on that tradition and that philosophy and his ideas. It makes our industry so much better. For you as well, Yvonne, because I know that you were close with him and you've worked hand in hand, both of you have to create this vision and to create this, ongoing dream of his. So I love that. What a wonderful, wonderful gift.
Yeah, it is. And I was just thinking, just a few days ago, we were talking with some folks having to do with Comp Laude, which we'll get into in a minute here. But it's always, as you say, it's heartwarming to know that people identify Comp Laude with David, and they have like very specific memories of the last time they saw David, or just their connection to David through Comp Laude. So Comp Laude has definitely captured the spirit of David DiPaolo, and it is alive and well through that. And it's very cool to see.
I love it. I think it's one of the greatest joys in our entire industry to know that he dreamed about this. This was a vision, and that you guys have made it possible. I mean, here we are. So Kristen, let's talk about this amazing event, this wonderful thing that you put together, that you work so hard every single year, and it comes to life, and it's bigger than life now. I mean, especially this year with all of the challenges. So tell us.
Okay, so hold on a second there, Mr. Gonzalez. We're gonna dial it back a little bit. Okay, so the reason, this hasn't been announced yet, but this will be part of that announcement. So our new podcast is going to be called Deconstructing Comp. So in this first episode, what we're going to do is break down Comp Laude, take it apart, unpack it so that people understand, because there's a lot of moving parts, right, Kristen?
Oh, yeah.
So there are so many moving parts that sometimes it's hard to understand all that's happening. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to deconstruct Comp Laude.
Like, I don't even think people realize we're doing 2022 stuff right now to get ready for December 3rd. So we're already having to get 2022 ready now.
Yep. All right, so back to you, Raphael. Continue with your line of thinking.
I get so ahead of myself. I get so excited because I have been watching, participating now, and thanks to all of you, a big part of this. So I get so excited to hear you guys talk about the things that are happening. So tell us a little bit about, maybe give us a little history, if you will, Christian, of the event, how it got started, and maybe how it's come to be today.
So one of the biggest things is that why we get confused on the years. So you'll notice sometimes 6 is thrown out, sometimes 9 is thrown out. And the reason being is this started as a holiday event. So it was in the holidays when this event was started. So the first 3 years we technically called the WorkCompCentral holiday event. And then David saw a vision that it could be more. And I know that that's when
excuse the interruption, but even then during the holiday event, you guys called the awards that you handed out Comp Laude. Isn't that right?
No, you came up with you went through the whole marketing thing of coming up with the name.
So I would love to take credit for that, but I really do think that somewhere along the lines, it was called Comp Laude. All right.
I remember we were in that side room going, what should we name it? And you were a part of it.
I remember we had several names on the docket, but I distinctly remember kind of talking to David about, like, tell me more about what's been going on with your event that you're doing. And somewhere along the line, Comp Laude was part of that conversation. So it might not have been called the award, but somewhere it was in David's head for sure, because we wanted to make sure it had that bridge to education as well. Right. So that's where the name sort of emanated from.
Right, the Laude. Yep, and then he's like, let's add the comp to it to bring it into the industry. So yeah, so that's why we get confused on the years. But I still say the awards component is the seed that Comp Laude came from. And so we had a couple of years. So the first year is the only year I have missed for the event because I gave birth to my son and he, was on maternity leave. I wanted to go, but they told me I wasn't allowed. Knowing me, I would have loved to have been there. That was the first year. And then from then on, I've been a part of it, like we talked about, our 8 years now. So the first 2 years, it was just a holiday event to then going to Comp Laude, which then we incorporated the industry into the selection of the award recipients.
Okay, so for the record, we're going to say that Comp Laude has been in existence for 9 years. Is that the right number?
Yeah, 9 years.
9 years.
That's the official. And I had my book here that I referenced. Last year we referred to it as 8. So I'm going to say plus 1 is 9.
Sounds like good math to me.
So, so with that, so before that, we were giving awards. It was more of a marketing thing. When it first started, we were giving some of our instructors or our members awards, which again is not a bad thing, but it was kind of, I know David could see more from it and getting the industry to the table. So I know that's when he started thinking about an advisory board that was made up of people in the industry. Raphael's part of our advisory board, as well as the awards being more than just a WorkCompCentral selection. He wanted to get the industry involved in what could be done for this event. And I know that that's when he incorporated his ideas and got Yvonne involved. Do you want to talk a little bit about how your involvement came? Because that's when Comp Laude really transitioned, and you were a big part of that, to transitioning us to.
Well, thanks. I'm going to keep the focus on you. I mean, I have been involved since 2014, so a good stretch of time. And that's, in talking about these next things, this is sort of how I've been involved over the past few years. But tell us a little bit about what is it that makes Comp Laude so special? To me, there are 3 to 4 distinct things that we always talk about that make it special. So why don't you break those down and tell us about what it is that makes Comp Laude special?
So we started having injured workers at the event. The other thing is we invite everybody to the table. We do our best to, when we can, make sure that the applicant claimant side has a voice, the medical is involved, the claims, the employers, everybody has the opportunity to collaborate at our event and have some involvement. And I was really hoping with 2020 Live, we were going to have that by inviting some other of the associations to participate that could have hopefully brought those people, because we do want everybody to have a voice, have an option, collaborate, sit at a table with who they normally sit across from, sit with, and have a conversation that's not just about a case. It's about, we really try to get everyone across the industry involved.
So we try to bring all the stakeholders together. That's definitely an excellent point. One of the first ones I always talk about. Now, talk a little bit about, we always mention the narrative. So what about the narrative is important to understand about Comp Laude?
We're trying to change it to a positive one. So being a news publication is, I mean, if you go to WorkCompCentral right now, I'm sure we'll have something of fraud or, something of that's not so putting our industry in light. Fraud mostly is what tends to be in the news. Obviously our legislative stuff as well, we do really good there, but that tends to give our industry a negative. So with Comp Laude, David was trying to make it positive by talking about the good things that we do, which our industry does do a lot of good things. We bring a lot of the stories to light. As we know, in December 3rd, our injured worker panel is called What Good Looks Like. And there's 3 stories there from 3 injured workers that will put that positive spin on our industry, because it does do a lot of good things.
Right, and that's moderated by Kimberly George of Sedgwick, and it's always one of my favorite parts of the conference. It's always so great.
Yeah, I had some tear jerkers. Just a little teaser. So one of the injuries, she was struck by lightning. She was an archaeologist. And then we have Dana Moore, who had the pipe fall on him. And, and then we have Billy Parker, we saw him last.
Another double amputee and a great person, right?
Mm-hmm. And again, just to have the positive outlooks, which again, our industry was able to help him still have that, so.
For me, that is one of the things that makes this event just incredible, because we all know that it is about the injured worker. At the very heart of everything that we all do, it's the injured worker. But no other conference, no other event do we get to see them, and do we get to experience it through their eyes, and do we get to hear it from their perspective. And I mean, you talk about tearjerker. I mean, I have never attended any one of those events where I am not uncontrollably crying about it, because it is so emotional to hear their stories, to hear what has happened, and then to see them win.
I'm super surprised that none of the vendors, if you're listening in our industry, have not jumped on the opportunity to do branded Kleenexes to pass out and to hand out.
Hey.
What a great idea.
Yeah. Hey, next year.
So in addition to the injured worker panel, Kristen, also one of my absolute favorites, the People's Choice. Tell us a little bit about that. How did that come about? What's that all about?
Well, I have to do a quick shout out because we do have 2019's People's Choice winner in our presence today. So we have to give a quick round of applause. There you go. You can't give yourself a round of applause.
Oh, you're talking about me? I thought you were talking about Raphael.
You're the winner of 2019.
I'm sorry, I have my marketing hat on. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so 2019 winner. And I have a 2020 participant going on. So there you go. See? There you go. So we have the People's Choice, quote unquote, the TED style talks, which David, that was one of David's visions that he did get to see come to light with the event, where people have 6 minutes to tell a story that is personal, that has something to do that, again, it helps bring that human aspect to Comp Laude or to the industry, that the people you may be dealing with have stories to tell, are humans. We kind of humanize the industry with this event, and people have to really tell their stories. And over the years, it's gotten more and more personal, where people are stepping outside their shell and telling stories, but they only have 6 minutes to do it, which I think is one of the unique things. Is in a matter of minutes, you're going to hear 7 stories. And Greg McKenna, who knew David and what he was trying to accomplish with the event, has done a really good job of telling stories with what he's given. So there is a submission process. So people do have to turn in their stories, and there's a People's Choice Committee that reviews all the stories and which ones would really help, or which ones are selected to be a part of the event. And then with that, we come to the day of, which the people have 6 seconds to tell their story, or 6 minutes to tell their stories. So it's just a unique event. It's TED style talks. They don't get to have a PowerPoint. They can do one visual this year that kind of may help showcase what they're trying to do. But if not, they just have to captivate the audience within those 6 minutes and see what they can do. And then the audience texts to vote. So the winner is announced at the awards ceremony later that afternoon.
Right, and this year is even more exciting because normally at a live event, we have the People's Choice, then we have a little bit of a break, like about an hour and a half to 2 hours, to allow people to get ready for the awards ceremony, kind of have a chance to chat amongst each other. And so we have like an hour and a half to go through the votes and make sure we've got a clear winner. This year, it's a matter of 15 minutes, right? So we're going straight from the People's Choice segment. Kristen and I will be chatting and talking about what just happened. And then we're going to go right into the award ceremony, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, so it's going to be, like you said, a nail biter, because we're going to go straight from the sessions to hearing who won. And that's the beauty of technology with the text to vote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And a lot of behind the scenes, our producers and everything will be making sure to do what we can. So, and again, thank you, technology.
All right. So before we move on to the big piece of it, which is the awards, I just want to say from my perspective, and Raphael, you're going to get to experience this from the inside this year because you're going to participate in People's Choice. But it's David's idea about this segment was that the more people share about themselves personally, because we don't really do that in our industry, a lot, and we see each other, we get, obviously we all have friends and all that, but we really don't get to know them very well or know a lot about them personally. And so David's thinking was the more we can connect on that level, the better we become as an industry, knowing our colleagues and knowing that, everybody has vulnerabilities and things that have happened. It's just a really great connector. And that is one of the things that drives that whole segment.
It's the reason why I love that segment. I mean, 2 years ago, Christy Sands and her presentation. Last year, Yvonne, your presentation. I mean, it already knew these folks, but hearing their stories, oh my gosh, it brought me in even closer. And I thought, what strength, what courage to tell intimate, personal stories of themselves and their families. And you're right. You both have said it. It just brings us closer, right? The realization that we are human. We all have similar experiences. Some of them painful, and to be able to have that I don't know, that experience where you share it with your entire industry, it just brings us closer together. Comp has always generally, I think, been an industry where we get along better than most. But gosh, that specific event just puts an exclamation point at the end of it. Just love it. Absolutely.
That's right. And I can definitely speak from experience now. I have become closer to quite a few people in our industry, all because of the fact that I got up on stage and told my story. So it's a great catapult into something new and exciting.
Love that.
And really quick, before we go on to I realized I actually did get a Comp Laude award before. It was a Comp Laude, and I forgot I brought it home. So, new presenter of the year for 2013.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Congrats.
So I'm like, hey, I'm amongst award winners because both of you have won awards, but hey, I have two now.
So 3 award winners here.
There you go.
So we're going to wrap up now with the grand cherry on top of this event, which is the awards ceremony. So what I want to talk about, Kristen, or what I want to have you talk about is you mentioned the advisory board before. So talk a little bit about all the different things that go into deciding the awards winners, because there's a lot that's involved, and it's actually something that's happening almost all year long, starting with nominations. So you already mentioned it's an open nominations process. Take it from there and briefly tell us, what happens to get us to where we're going to be in a little over a week.
Yeah. So the awards process starts with nominations opening. That's why I think people wonder why we close them so early. And it's because it has to go through 3.5 stages. So the nominations committee comes up first. It's made up of individuals across the industry. It's not just one type. It's, people on our advisory board. And what they have to do is review all the nominations. We do have a software that we made that helps them to guide them through the process. But they look at each of it and they decide on it. And it is usually 7 members on that committee. But they do review all. Last year they had to do 220 plus nominations that they reviewed. They look at the stories or the information that's been input from the nomination. And if that person does the Comp Laude mission and vision. So when I send out the notice to them, I say, do these people embody what we're trying to accomplish with Comp Laude? And, we talk about it. And then they go from there and it hits the vetting committee. But before it does that, the Comp Laude crew does take a look at it. What they do is they verify the names, the spelling, the contact information, and try and collect the information that they can to make sure we have the latest contacts. So it's called scrubbing. That's the 0.5. And then it's handed to the vetting committee. So the nominators are contacted at that time to try and collect information and help tell a story or any supporting documentation for those nominations that are going to be handed over to the vetting committee. So they are then assigned to try and get the information. And once that's done, if they meet the deadline, then that full package of information, so the story that the nominator put together, any supporting document, references that we do ask for references from about the nominees, and their headshots and all that is handed over to the vetting committee. And then the vetting committee has the task of contacting and interviewing each nominee. So anybody that's made it to that next stage gets assigned a vetting committee member, and they do sit down and have a discussion, a phone call with them about their story. They have 5 questions that they do have to ask the interviewee about, their history, why they do what they do, how they practice advocacy for the injured worker. If it's not an injured worker that's being interviewed, if the injured worker, it's just tell us about your story, some of the things that you have overcome. So that's the vetting committee. And what they do is then they vote on it. If that person embodies the Comp Laude mission or vision. And after they do, then they're either passed or failed. If they pass, then that's when they become a finalist. So we're not even done yet. So then they are passed or failed and make it on to the next round. And if they make it past, they go to the judging committee. And then the judging committee will review the whole package. So notes from the nominations committee, as well as the nomination, notes from the vetting committee, and the interview. So they can see the questions that were asked, the information, the documentation, and everything that's been put together. And then they put a numerical value or score on it. So it's 1 to 100 and how much this person is trying to positively impact the industry and do things for the injured worker, and not about themselves. And so then after that, that's also a majority, not vote, but score. So the system will calculate everything that's been put together by the judging committee. It's usually 5 to 7 members on that as well. And they have to review all the finalists. And this year we had 74 that they had to review and put a score on. And then once that's done, the system will calculate, and then that's how the winner is input or output from the system.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, I know you've probably heard the same, but I've heard from several past award winners that have now served on judging over the years, and they're usually quite surprised at the level of work that goes into the judging part. And they've expressed a lot of gratitude for all that goes into it. So
and the vetting committee, that's probably one of the committees that many people don't leave. It's the most intense, because you do have to schedule time to talk to the person, but once they do, it's the most rewarding because you get to hear people's stories, whether you've known them for a long time or you're meeting them for the first time. It's again that human aspect that we add into it, and that they have to ask them some questions about how do they practice advocacy, and what do they do. And I was actually on vetting. This is my first time doing vetting committee. That's one of the things I have not done. And it was really the stories I told, and what they really do every day was a really humbling experience.
Yeah, so it's another one of those things that brings people together, really gets those connections going, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask, all of that is hard work, difficult, just on a regular year. And then here we are in 2020, where everything and then some has been a challenge. So tell us a little bit about that, if you can. How has all of the things that are challenging us in 2020 changed the award ceremony and the entire event? I mean, what have you had to do as a result of all of that?
It's being creative, and as well as understanding, it's work when being a part of the Comp Laude Advisory Board, as you know. So it's understanding that balance, that we're all going through something new, and even a lot of people told me, you're doing the best that you can, adjusting and being creative this year. So.
That challenges everywhere.
And it's not done, right? We still have a little while to go before ceremony day. So there's still a whole lot of details and work to be done. So.
Yeah.
So
and like we said, that's going to be the creative thing, is right. Putting off an award ceremony that, usually that, the look, the feel, the whole, like the audience is part of the award ceremony. So it's that losing that's going to be, we're going to have to be very creative on.
Yeah, so there's some announcements that'll be coming out from WorkCompCentral and such about the Comp Laude Awards ceremony that is on December 3rd, along with, as we mentioned, the Injured Worker Panel with Kimberly George and the People's Choice Awards with Greg McKenna. So, Raphael, did we cover it all? Was there something that we missed, or?
I think we covered it all. I think our first guest hit it out of the ballpark.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you. And thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be your first guest. And I'm excited to see I know it's going to be great with you too. So.
Well, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. And like I said, stay tuned to WorkCompCentral to see some exciting new stuff coming out about the Gala Day, December 3rd, coming up soon.
And 2020 virtual.complaude.com also has a lot of good information as well.
Thank you, Kristen. So yeah, that's the best place to go to see the sponsors, check out some digital swag and everything that's up to date about the event. So thanks again, Kristen, for joining us. I know I'll be talking to you every day between now and Comp Laude, so.
Thanks, Kristen.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.